We're in the studio. We're in the Building Bellingham studio.
Thanks for having me.
Construction is going on next door, but you can't hear it because we're soundproof.
Yeah.
But we're starting a new endeavor. We're starting a new adventure, and it's called The Tipping Point. And I'm super excited to have you here. We're going to get into who we are, what's going on. Some people watch the Building Bellingham podcast or listen to it. This is in a different vein. And I'm really excited for this conversation because we're going to be talking about decisions in our life, right? Not to be too vague about it, but we're going to be talking about with some of the best and people that have faced, I don't know, in my opinion, the most or the biggest amount of adversity or different types of adversity, because there's so much to be learned from that. So we're going to be sitting down, you and I, Dylan, and we'll get into who you are in a moment, as students. Who are you?
Yeah. So Dylan Langei, and then thanks for, inviting me to be your co-host. I think, I think this is nice because it's going to eliminate maybe actually it might stimulate some of these 30-minute phone conversations that we have. And every time we end one of these conversations, we're like, dude, we should start a podcast.
Yeah.
Like,
We're
everything.
30, we drink beer.
Right.
I don't have a man bun.
Yeah.
Maybe I will.
But it's always like, right, every time we talk on the phone, it starts out with maybe some of our mutual clients or business, but then it kind of turns into more, right? And it turns into, right, we're both 30-something-year-old entrepreneurs, right? We both manage teams, right, of different sizes. We're in kind of this sales and marketing role, but personally and professionally, we wear a lot of hats, right? So we have these great conversations about personal life, right? You've got a baby, you've got some puke on your vest right now. I've got one on the way, so we're kind of, we're in this same personal life, but then also professionally too. Right. And I think those are very, very interconnected. Yeah. And every time we get off the phone, right, it's usually,
why weren't we recording this?
Yeah, just, hey, call me for 2 minutes. I got a quick update on this client. And then it turns into a 45-minute conversation about, life and the pursuit of happiness. Yeah. And so, I think just, we are both natural, just students, right? Yeah. I think we are sponges. We soak everything in. Yeah. And, my biggest thing is I want to share that with the community. I think that, we have a great network. I think we have a lot of great ideas, but we're young.
We're standing on the shoulders of people that are great. And there's so many people that we look up to and are learning from, or haven't had a chance. Maybe we've crossed paths, but haven't had a chance to sit down with and learn from and hear their story. So that's huge,
right?
We're still in the early stages, even 8, 9, 10 years in the business. There's people that have been doing this for 50 or 60 years in different industries and have faced a million different waves of the market, of the economy, of life, of kids growing up, of all of these things, and had to make decisions.
Yep.
Hard decisions, easy decisions, right?
Yeah, totally. I think, and when we kept talking, right, there was this common theme, right? And I kind of want you to dive into it because I think you do a great job explaining it. And, it essentially morphed, the name of this podcast, which is The Tipping Point, right? And why don't you go into that and just explain it?
Well, I was driving here this morning and I was thinking about what it meant, because every time I've thought about it, I've thought of something different. That's the cool part about it, is that it's very broad, but it is all and very versatile, but also can be very specific, right? And I started thinking about every single day. I'm like, how many decisions do I think I have to make? Most decisions are pretty easy. You barely think about them. Maybe they're subconscious. And then there's some decisions where you're like, this could make or break my life. I don't know. It could really, really dramatically impact my life or somebody else's life now, a year from now, 10 years from now. And a lot of people go through their daily life and don't think about the impact that something has in the future, right? And sometimes you can get too caught up in the future, right? So like, what is that balance between thinking about what's the best decision today for me and my family, or for the people around me that I care about? Because it's a lot of our happiness comes from the happiness of people that we care about around us, right? So it's not just about our own decisions that affect our own life. How do we impact other people, right? And our community is growing, but it's not huge. It's a small town. I mean, you've been here your whole life, mostly.
Yep.
And you grew up here, and Bellingham is a small community. And I love that. Do I love the things that come along with that? Absolutely. The growth. but it's still a small town. And so the way you impact, the way you carry yourself, the way you interact with other people, all of these things matter, right? We keep saying here on our team, it's once you get the miles down, every inch matters from then on out, right? That's the defining moments and differences between people that do really great work and people that do okay work, right? No matter what industry you're in. And so thinking about decisions that we make every day. And then I said, holy shit, I make probably as many decisions as I take breaths every day.
Right. Yeah.
And then I was like, wow, let's jump into this. And so that's what really excited me about this topic. That's why we named it this. And that's why, those conversations that were 10-minute, like, hey, let's get down to the details, that turned into this conversation around an experience, your history with soccer, my history with soccer, team sports, an interaction we had with a person on the road or whatever it is, that turns into this conversation around life, because we're both students and we're genuinely curious about, I'm curious about what makes people tick. I'm curious about why people do things. I'm curious about how life events affect someone for the rest of their life. And so, classic long-winded answer to your question, but that's what I believe the tipping point is about. And I'm super excited because we have had a lot of life experiences in a short amount of time, but we're about 10% of that. So I'm super excited to tap into these amazing people that we know and be able to ask them questions and sit here basically with our audience on the same side of the table and go, teach us your ways, what happened, and really see people get vulnerable, because that's at the core. That's what matters. It's not like the shell of the success. It's the vulnerability around, I had crippling anxiety when I was going through this business transition, or this relationship was falling apart when I was building this or doing that, or those are the things that make us human.
Yeah.
Decisions, the vulnerability to be who they are. And so I'm ready to learn. I'm excited to jump into this and like just ask as many questions as we can and really bring as much value to our audience as we can. And it's going to be more broad than building Bellingham. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I add on to that?
Add on to it.
You can see how our phone conversations last 45 minutes when it's supposed to be.
It's my fault.
No, but I think it's great, right? And I think that we do want to reach a broad audience. Yeah. And I think that, it doesn't matter if, you're a stay-at-home mom, a stay-at-home dad, or you're in the real estate business, right, or you're starting up a new business, or you're just out of college, or you've been an executive at a company for 15 years. I think we all need to be in that mindset where we want to learn and we want to grow from other people and their experiences and their tipping points, right? Like, what made you become an executive for 10 years or stay at that company for 10 years? What made you become a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad, right? Like, where were those tipping points? And we really want to dive into those and understand those decisions, right? Is it from, their framework as a child, or what life, occurrences they went through that made them decide to jump into one way or another, right? Or where they're, something happened in their personal life or their professional life that, brought them to this tipping point that really made them pivot, right? Or made them stay the course, right? Like, I think that's what fascinates both of us, because you kind of, people and you hear people, but you also always wonder, how did that person get to that point?
Yeah.
Right. I think there's many paths that they could have taken, but I think it's cool to know and understand, why did they pivot? Why did they redirect that path? Or why did they stay on that path? Right. And that's where we really got to this idea of a tipping point. Because I think everybody reaches that tipping point, and it could be in a personal relationship, right? That needs to end. It could be a friend, it could be a spouse, it could be a girlfriend, a boyfriend, whatever, right? There might have been that one moment that's the tipping point that you needed to pivot, right? Or it could be professionally, a relationship with your boss or a coworker, right? What made you pivot from this industry to another? And then suddenly they're very successful, and they ended up landing in a profession or an industry that they never saw themselves in. I never saw myself in the mortgage industry ever. Right. I was interviewing at software companies, right? I wanted to do the thing with the ping pong tables and the keg in the break room and the Xbox
vending machines.
Right. I thought, mortgage was boring bankers, right? That wore suits and were stiff, right? So we all end up in these career paths that, maybe we didn't intend on, right? But there was this tipping point, and there was a reason why.
Right.
So I think that's what fascinates both of us. And I really hope it fascinates our audience, because I think we're really going to learn and grow from each other and from other people's experiences and the guests that we bring in.
I couldn't have said it better. And that's why these conversations are 45 minutes, because we both have this perspective.
And we drink highball and Celsius before these. Yeah. So.
But we're really excited.
No water.
No water. Yeah, I think you can just drink electrolytes all day. No, but we're really excited to jump into this, and really stoked to have you on the show, co-hosting this with me, and excited to have the guests on and see where this goes, and provide as much value and information to our audience.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome, man.
Let's get after it. Boom.